Guys, so a few questions about the S21 versus the S23. Is this a good upgrade? And I think this is potentially a pretty solid upgrade if you are looking to upgrade your Galaxy S21. So let's go ahead and jump into it. I want to start off with the price. I think the S21 is actually a fantastic deal still in 2024, considering that the phone is well below $200. You can find it for, like, I've seen it for $159, $150 on eBay, Amazon. The S23, you can find it well below $400 now as well too. I see it trending around $350, $360. And let's go ahead and just go over this and see, is this worth the upgrade, or should you just hold on to your S21 for a little bit more? Alright, so let's go ahead and jump into it with the hardware difference. So one thing that you'll notice here is that the S21 is actually a slightly bigger phone here, and it's pretty much because it has a 6.2 inch display versus the 6.1 inch display here. So it is going to be, kind of a bigger phone, as you guys can see, kind of the same in thickness. And the biggest difference here you'll see with the hardware is actually the cameras are bigger, and then they got rid of the cutout as well too. So overall, not too much going on with the hardware. They're both still IP68 dust and water resistant. They both have that matte finish on here, but I would say the S23 feels a lot more premium because, you know, that 1 year Samsung actually just randomly went with a plastic back, which is not terrible because, you know, it's really hard to crack well, it's not really hard, but, you know, it's easier to crack a glass back than a plastic back. So, you know, a lot of people didn't like it, so they went back to the glass back with the S22. But yeah, so as far as the build quality goes, you'll notice that the S23 just feels a lot more premium. They both feel really solid in the hand as well too. Alright, so let's talk about these specs a little bit more here. So the S21 will actually get Android 15. It is currently on the Android 14 update. We do have the Snapdragon 888 processor, which is still pretty decent. And then you also do have the 128 gigs and 8 gigabytes of RAM. The S23 does have a much more efficient processor. It's the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. Basically, I wouldn't necessarily say it's that much faster, but it definitely does not get as warm as the 888. It is 128 gigs and 8 gigs of RAM as well too. And you guys can see the score difference here. I would say your speed difference and animation difference isn't really that big of a difference for the most part. The S21 is still, you know, very fast, so you can see it's pretty much still able to keep up with the S21 here. Let's just try YouTube. So as you guys can see, not that big of a difference in terms of speed and animations. They look pretty consistent with each other. Not that big of a deal. Yeah, so I wouldn't say speed animation wise, not a big upgrade here for the most part here. Let's go ahead and launch PUBG here. Now, as far as the gaming goes, the S23 is going to do a better job when it comes to heat. And overall, the frame rates are going to be higher at 120 frames for a game like PUBG. And yeah, the gaming experience is going to be a little bit better, but I would say you would really have to be like an actual, you know, mobile gamer. You would have to consider yourself a gamer, because the S21 surprisingly still does a great job. It's still able to do the 90 frames. Now, I'm not a big gamer, so I'm not going to be in here for hours like playing PUBG and Call of Duty and stuff like that. So I've never had like this phone crash on me or anything like that. But this phone does perfectly fine. No, you're not going to get the, you know, the full 120 frames, but it still looks really smooth at 90 frames. So I don't think, like I said, if you're not into gaming like that, competitive gaming, you really don't need to upgrade for gaming. So besides the you know, CPU, the overall software that you're gonna get, so let's talk about that. You will get more updates obviously with the S23. It's a newer device, and you will get the Galaxy AI features, guys. So this is something that may or may not interest you. It really depends on the person, but you know, I have videos on the AI stuff. And basically, you don't get the AI features besides the circle to search on the Galaxy S21, which is cool. That's probably one of my favorite features. But, you know, you do get all the Galaxy AI features, and whatever else they release in these next couple of years, you will most likely get that on the S23. So also something to take into consideration. As far as the displays go, they pretty much look similar for the most part. Color wise, I think the S21 looks a little bit more colorful. I just think these older displays look a little bit more colorful. But you do have pretty much the same, kind of the same specs. So you got a 6.2 inch display versus the 6.1 inch displays. And then they're both 1080p, they're both dynamic AMOLED, they're both 120 Hz, HDR10 Plus. The difference is this has 1750 nits peak brightness and this has 1300 nits peak brightness here. The bezels don't really look all that different on these models as well too. And they're both around, 420-ish for the PPI. So don't really look all that different as far as the display quality. The biggest thing you'll notice is a slight increase in the display size and then the max brightness. So I wouldn't necessarily say this is actually a big upgrade for S21 users for sure here. I think the S21 still looks fantastic. All right, let's check out these speakers. Max volume, we'll start with the S21. The S23 with the slightly stronger bass. Yeah, it's a slightly stronger bass. The S21 still sounds pretty decent, but yeah, I would definitely say you get a much fuller sound. Even though the S21, it doesn't really sound that bad. The fingerprint scanners feel exactly the same on both of these phones. They're both the ultrasonic ones, so they both work really well, so there's no upgrade in that department. All right, so the cameras are what a lot of people are concerned about here, and let's just take a look at these side-by-side stills and video, the specs. So with the S21, we have a 12 megapixel standard, a 64 megapixel telephoto. This does have a 1.1 optical zoom, and then you also have a 12 megapixel ultra wide, shoots in 8K 24 with a 10 megapixel selfie that shoots in 4K 60. The S23 has a 15 megapixel standard, 10 megapixel telephoto, 3 times optical zoom with a 12 megapixel ultra wide, and then you can also shoot in 8K 24 and 30 with a 12 megapixel selfie that shoots in 4K 60. So take a look at these side-by-side stills and video. Let me know what you guys think. So what's interesting about this battery upgrade is that because the chip is more efficient on the S23, this is actually a pretty good battery upgrade here. So the S21 actually has a 4,000 milliamp hour battery versus the 3,900 milliamp hour battery. They both charge at 25 watts and they both have wireless and reverse wireless charging. If your battery life is the main concern, then I think this is a pretty solid upgrade because the S23 has pretty good screen on time and it has much better standby time as well. So I think it's overall a pretty solid upgrade in that department. So pretty interesting. Be sure to let me know what you guys think and I'll catch you guys in the next one.